Squid Game's final season just shattered Netflix records with 60 million views in its first week, but the real story isn't in the numbers. It's in how this season completely redefines what we thought was possible in television.
The way they've managed to elevate the stakes while still keeping the emotional core intact is truly remarkable. What struck you most about how they opened this final chapter?
Well, picking up right where Season 2 left off was brilliant. Gi-hun shackled in the facility he tried to destroy, completely broken. You know, it's interesting because the showrunners actually considered several different openings, but this one perfectly sets up the themes of redemption and sacrifice.
Speaking of sacrifice, let's talk about that birth scene during the hide-and-seek game. I've never seen anything quite like it on television.
Oh man, that scene was intense. The way they choreographed it, with the other players forming this protective circle around Jun-hee while the game continued, it's like this perfect metaphor for how humanity can persist even in the most inhuman conditions.
The technical aspects were fascinating too. They actually had 3 different medical consultants on set to ensure the birth scene felt authentic, while still working within the game's framework.
You know what's really interesting about that scene? The director originally wanted to cut it entirely, thinking it might be too much for audiences, but the test screenings showed it was actually the moment that resonated most strongly with viewers.
Well, that makes sense when you consider how it sets up the rest of the season, especially that devastating finale.
Speaking of which, let's break down these games because each one feels more punishing than the last. The hide-and-seek game alone had something like 47 different camera setups to capture all the tension.
The way they built up to that jump rope bridge sequence was masterful, especially with Gi-hun carrying the baby across.
Right, and here's something most people don't know. They actually built 3 different bridge sets at varying heights to capture different angles. The highest was nearly 100 feet up, though most of the actual filming happened on the lower sets.
The production values this season were just incredible. I heard they spent almost twice the budget of season 1 just on that final Squid Game sequence.
Yeah. Those 3 towers representing the square, triangle, and circle. The symbolism isn't subtle, but it works because they earned it through the character development. Like, take the frontman's arc this season.
Lee Byung-hun's performance was absolutely haunting. The way he gradually shows cracks in that stoic facade.
Exactly, and the director mentioned in interviews that they specifically wrote those subtle character shifts to mirror the original games. Each time the frontman makes a decision, it's tied to one of the shapes from the original series.
So when we get to that final confrontation between Gi-hun and Myung-gi, everything has this added weight to it.
And then that twist with the VIPs voting to make the baby player 222 the champion. It's like this perfect culmination of all the themes they've been building. The showrunners said they didn't even decide on that ending until halfway through filming.
The audience reaction to that moment has been fascinating to watch. Social media practically exploded when it aired.
Well, you know what's crazy? The streaming data shows that more people rewatched that scene than any other moment in the entire series. It's like everyone needed to process it multiple times.
The emotional impact of Gi-hun's sacrifice those final words. Humans are, they're still being debated online.
The writer actually revealed that they wrote 7 different versions of that final line, but ultimately decided to leave it unfinished because it felt more powerful that way. It lets viewers fill in their own interpretation.
That kind of ambiguity really elevates the whole series beyond just being a survival drama.
Exactly. And when you look at the critical response, that's what keeps coming up. The show managed to maintain an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes while still taking these huge narrative risks.
Though some viewers did have issues with certain aspects, like the CGI baby in some scenes.
Yeah, but here's what's interesting about that. The production team actually used a combination of practical effects and CGI. They had 5 different animatronic babies created, each designed for specific types of scenes.
The attention to detail really shows in those quieter moments, especially during the emotional scenes with Jun-hee.
Speaking of which, let's talk about that Cate Blanchett cameo in the finale, playing Dakji in that alley. The implications for a potential American version are huge.
The global expansion of the games adds this whole new layer to the social commentary, doesn't it?
Well, that's exactly what the creator wanted. In fact, they've already started development on 3 different international versions, each adapting the games to reflect different cultural contexts.
The way they're handling the expansion while still maintaining the core themes is pretty impressive.
And you know what's fascinating? Early data suggests that viewers in different countries are interpreting the ending in completely different ways. In some regions, it's seen as hopeful, in others as deeply cynical.
That cultural impact really speaks to how universal these themes are.
Absolutely fascinating. And when you look at the viewing numbers broken down by region, you can see these distinct patterns emerging. Like in Southeast Asia, the birth scene resonated most strongly, while European audiences connected more with the frontman's moral struggle.
The show really has become this global phenomenon that transcends cultural boundaries.
You know, looking back at where this all started, a small Korean drama that nobody expected to break out, it's pretty remarkable how it's evolved into this commentary on humanity itself.
Well, that's what makes great television, isn't it? The ability to tell a specific story that somehow speaks to everyone.
And as we wrap up this discussion, I think that's really the legacy of this final season. It's not just about the games or the twists or even the shocking finale. It's about how we all see ourselves in these characters, these impossible choices.
That's such a powerful note to end on. The show might be over, but these conversations are just beginning.
Well, until next time, remember, don't play Dokji with strangers in alleys, and maybe think twice about what you do for a better